Hello and welcome to my 13 horrifically silly days of Halloween blog series. I am back today with my special guest, actor Barry Corbin. Barry, thank you so much for joining me today. And please tell us all a little bit about yourselves for those
Well,
very few people who don't know.
I've been an actor in television and film for about let's see 42 years, I guess, and before that, I spent another uh, probably 20 years in on stage. So I worked out of New York, Chicago, and all through the South. So I've been around. I've been doing this for as long as most of you've been alive.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Susan Berger. I'm an actor and a writer, and I have written, I think I have I did have five published children's books. My publisher went under.
Yeah.
And I have three romance books published, another one that's about to go somewhere. I forget where, hopefully somewhere.
Mm.
And I'm also a grandmother, and I live in Los Angeles.
And you have done some horror and genre type films, including, I wanted to talk to you first about Dead and Buried, which I believe is a 1981 film, and I actually just saw it for the first time recently. It's really quite neat. And you were in that, and you were sort of a zombie, kind of. But I don't want to give too much away for those who haven't seen it.
I'll tell you, there was I believe there were two live people in the movie. Everybody else dead.
Yeah. Except for the people from out of town.
We'd be sitting in a cafe or something, and we'd be talking, and we'd do this, and then put the coffee down, and then we'd do this again. We never took a bite of anything. We'd take a fork and do like that, put it back down. We never ate. In other words, we'd never eat. We'd never do anything. But that's because we were dead and we didn't need to.
Right. And it was done in such a way that maybe like people weren't supposed to catch on right away that you're dead.
Yeah, I never saw the movie. I watched the first scene of the movie where somebody gets burned to death on the beach. And I said, that's enough for me. I don't need to see any more.
Yeah, I actually found that quite disturbing. Yeah.
So I never saw the movie. I never saw it. So I don't know how they cut it together, but I do know that that it was Jack Albertson's last movie.
Oh.
After he'd done Chico and the Man and all that stuff, and Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory.
That's where I recognized him from. Yeah.
This was his final movie. I really kind of felt sorry for him that this was his final movie.
Well, he did do a good job in it. He was, he was very good. Yeah.
He was always very good, but I mean, he was even real good in what was that? Miracle on 34th Street when he sent all the mail over to the courthouse.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, but I enjoyed that film very much too. And yeah, he's good in what he does. It was good in what he did. But as far as the rest of the film goes, I would say if you're ever interested in watching it, once you get past that burning scene, it gets a lot tamer, I would say, from there. That scene bothered me too, and
I might watch it then if that's better, if that's the worst part of it.
Yeah, I mean there are some scenes of stabbing.
The main thing I remember about that is we spent all night in the graveyard, and I had pieces of me falling off, and that's as cold, almost as cold as I've ever been.
Ooh.
This was in Northern California.
Okay.
And it was cold and damp. The only time I was ever colder, I was doing a scene on the barge on the Thames River in London, and it wasn't that cold, but it was damp, and it was like I was cold from the inside out.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
only time I've ever been colder than that, you know.
Uh, well, I guess I don't know if that helped add to the atmosphere at all, everybody being cold and undead.
Well,
But
my teeth were chattering, and I was hugging an extra to keep myself warm. Pretty woman.
yeah, well, good idea. Cool. Well, it was a good film and with a really interesting twist beyond just the twist of, oh, these people are actually undead people. There's a little bit more of a twist at the very end, which I'll leave out because, for those who haven't seen it.
Yeah,
But
yeah. We don't want to spoil it for anybody who happens to want to watch it.
yes, yes. And now just to say that when I said it's tamer after the burning scene, there are, stabbings and stuff like that, but it's just more typical. Like I think there's an
Well,
eyeball thing, but
also, if you like the horror movies, it's also got Bob England in it, who played Freddy
yes.
Krueger. You know.
Yeah, from Nightmare on Elm Street.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
funny seeing him looking so young,
Yeah,
and not
we
burnt
were young men. We were there wasn't any of us. Most of anybody that's older than I am is dead now.
Yeah, yeah, true enough. Everybody looked pretty young. I almost, yeah, thank you for reminding me. I almost forgot about Robert Englund. How could I? But yeah, he was in that too. And that was before Nightmare on Elm Street came out. So yeah, it was. I don't know if that would be considered a breakout for him or not, but anyway, I wanted to move on to a horror comedy that you were in that I rewatched recently to remind myself because it's been a long time since I've seen Critters 2.
Yeah.
Yeah, in my interview with Susan a couple of years ago, I heard that your kids actually borrowed some of the critters from.
Oh, they didn't borrow them; they got them. They
You
still
got
have
them. Yay!
them. And Jim, my son, said, I said, do you? They want me to do this movie called Critters 2. I know there was a Critters 1 because they're calling this Critters 2. Did you see 1? And he said, yeah. I said, should I do Critters 2? And he said, do you get killed in it? And I said, no. And he said, yeah, do it. So I did it.
It's a really fun movie. I mean, the critters, I'm a little bit warped in that I find them a little bit cute. But of course, they're also horrific because they're just like little balls of fur that eat people up.
Yeah, and what is it? Emmett Walsh played the sheriff in the first one.
That's right.
And later on, I was talking to Emmett, and he said, you make a better drunk sheriff than I do. I said, I don't know whether that's a compliment or not.
Exactly. but you took his place in Critters 2. And
yeah, he was doing a movie over in Africa at the time, so he
I was
couldn't
wondering.
do the number 2.
All right. Okay. All right. And so your son Jim borrowed, or not borrowed, excuse me, got some critters props to make his own film when he was a kid, right? At the time.
Yes, I don't know. I had nothing to do with that.
Well, Susan was telling me, I forget the name of it though. I forget the name of the film, like Crystal Minotaur or something like that.
Oh, yeah, there's something, I don't know what that was. Chris, my youngest son, made that name up, and I don't know where that came from.
Yeah, I was wondering that myself.
I've got no idea. He was sitting in the back seat of the car, and he said, "Crystal Minotaur, I am the Crystal Minotaur." And he was about 3, I guess. I don't know how old he was. He had that idea. I don't know what it was, but they came up with all kinds of stuff.
Well, budding writers, filmmakers, artists,
Yeah.
clearly. So, can you tell me a bit about your time on the set of Critters 2 and working with like a young Scott Grimes and so forth?
I have. It's been so long ago, and there's been so much stuff since then. I have a hard time remembering any of it. I played the sheriff kind of like a kind of a spoof on the old westerns. I'd twirl my pistols and do all this stuff, and but that was kind of my idea of doing it. And then I think I ended up in my Hawaiian shirt leaving town in the bus.
That's right. Yep.
I think that's what I ended up doing. But I don't remember much about what happened in it.
No,
I
it
remember
does.
those little things rolling around,
Yep.
and had awful looking teeth. I remember.
Of the
I
critters.
never looked at. Yeah, these little fur balls with awful looking teeth and little red eyes.
That's right. And really big mouths, so you could really see those teeth too.
Oh yeah, yeah. And then they rolled up into a great big ball. A bunch of them got together and came after us.
Yes, that was the whole premise is very funny and fun, and it's clear that the movie knows what it is. Like it knows
Yeah,
it's horror
yeah.
comedy. It's not trying to be anything else.
Yeah, it was a pretty comical movie. I did watch that one. That's pretty fun.
Yes, it was. It got gross in some spots too, with and with the practical effects were pretty neat as well, though. So it has some cachet.
Yeah. Well, and somebody, people with a sense of humor would enjoy it, I guess.
Yes. Yeah, definitely the horror comedy fans and B movie fans too. I mean, you might classify it as a B movie, but sort of a B movie on purpose, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
For now, I was wondering if we could talk a little bit about the whole. We talked about this a couple of years ago with when I was interviewing you. Particularly as the real butcher in American Horror Story, but we got talking about Critters too, which your husband was in. That's Barry Corbin, and apparently your kids got to have some of the critters and used them in their film. I was just wondering if you could share a little more about that, because Barry wasn't able to fill in very much there.
Okay, well, we used to make movies with the kids. This started. We went to a Red Grooms exhibit. He is an artist who is famous for working in paper mache and making life-size theater figures. And we went to an exhibit, and one of his exhibits was the Egyptian theater. And he had paper mache live pictures, and then he had a movie playing, and it was his own homebrew version of Little Red Riding Hood. And since I wasn't acting at the moment, I became extremely jealous and thought, I can do that. Problem is, I don't have a little girl, don't have a cape, and we're moving in 3 days, but that shouldn't be anything. I have a little 3-year-old, and I have a Robin Hood costume. So we filmed Little Green Robin Hood, and I didn't have a wolf. So I made a paper mache shark head, because this was the time of, Cookie Graham, Candy Graham on Saturday Night Live of the shark.
Okay.
So I made a shark, and Barry was the shark. He was also the filmer. So this ended up being a very interesting film. Well, our older son, James, got a little jealous because he was just playing the woodsman and Chris had the lead. So he and his girlfriend Edith wrote a new film called The Crystal Manager. And it felt these belt buckles that had sparkles in them, and they were magic. And so we filmed the first one, and then they wrote a second one. And at that point, the Critters came in. Barry had done Critters, and he was, Mick Garris was the director. And we needed Critters. That's what the kids told me. They got to drive the car. They did all kinds of things. So I said, well, of course, we'll borrow the Critters. And we borrowed one small one and one that was a puppet on the hand, and then one that was on a stick. And so the Critters were in the film, and they loved it. I mean, playing with critters. And then I actually cut in some of Critters from Critters.
Oh, right, from the actual film.
I also cut in Spaceballs, everything.
Yeah, so what was the movie about?
Well, in their first film, they had ended up with a diamond necklace, and they decided they really wanted to go buy a spaceship. So they went and bought a spaceship, and they were preparing to go to outer space. And then the villains came. The villain, at this point, Chris was the villain. He was Zor. and he had a gruff little voice, so it worked. And they stole the necklace, and so they had to get it back. And so they went traveling, and they used to, I think they used their spaceship to go after the villains.
Okay.
And we had lots of help. There's a country singer named Jim Stafford, and I think he was operating the lights on this one.
Cool.
And the kids just went away again. And it was fun. That was our third movie. The fourth one was You're a Good Man, Charlie Brown, and I taught it to the kids without music, a cappella.
Oh,
And then it was Chris's turn to write one, and his was a horror movie. I can send you the teaser.
yes,
I
please.
can't find the movie at the moment, but it was called The Killer Chef.
Yes, right. I
And
remember that. We talked about it last
Oh
time.
yeah.
Yeah.
So he was eating people and serving them up for breakfast,
Mhm.
and just fun.
Yeah.
That's the one where we used his entire 64-ounce bottle of ketchup.
Oh, yes. Yep.
The thing that really impressed me is for the funeral, I managed to come up with 3 suits for the pallbearers. I'm very excited by that.
Okay. Like matching and all very.
Yeah, I mean, they
Dressed
were
up.
suits. They were guys' suits.
Yeah. No.
And
That is pretty cool.
now Chris is, let's see, Chris isn't going to be 38 this year,
Okay.
and he is an actor. And
All right.
he was an American Crime, and I think maybe it was a horror episode.
Cool.
He was a spooky, evil janitor. He's also in Jane the Virgin, and he's at the moment, he's got a commercial running for Vistaprint, and he's a head rolling down the stairs.
Oh, okay. I haven't seen that yet because I would remember that, but I will look
Yeah.
because Vistaprint is a Canadian company. So
Well, it's probably
advertise-
there somewhere, or
Yeah.
at least on the internet, but he is the head rolling down the stairs.
Nice.
Then you see his headless body.
Okay. All right. There's a little bit of horror, but in a commercial.
Yeah.
Interesting. I take it that these films that they did, that you all did when they were young, were low budget.
Hmm. I think under $15, but I might have spent more.
Wow. Well, no, that's low budget.
Yeah. Well, in those days, we didn't have any way. I was cutting by going between 2 VCRs.
Oh, wow.
I had nothing, and they just had to slip.
Now, there was another film you mentioned that you wanted when we were just talking before I started recording that you said you wanted to mention. That's kind of
Yeah, it's a movie called Eminence Hill, and it's a Western, sort of, but it's also sort of a horror story. It's this gang of outlaws stumble upon this town who's led by sort of a religious fanatic, a guy named Noah. And I play Noah.
cool.
I come in and I say, I'm Noah. Well, to my ark.
Oh, I get it. Nice.
And then I don't let anybody leave. They've got to convert to my way of religion
Hmm.
and stay in place, because I don't want anybody to leave, because I don't want anybody to know where we are.
Okay.
You know, it takes place in the desert in the 1800s, and this gang of outlaws comes in thinking they'll take over. And I put them on trial, and I save their souls, and then I have them ripped apart by 4 horsemen, and they tie the arms to two horses and legs to 2 other horses, and then they go in opposite directions.
Right.
So it's pretty grisly, but it's a Western sort of, and then they end up shooting me, and there's a lot of blood. You know, it's
Oh, wow.
it's pretty bloody and gory, but it's you know.
That seems pretty enjoyable to horror fans.
Now, when people want to watch that kind of thing, it's one of the better ones you might want to watch. Yeah.
Terrific. When was it shot?
It's been probably probably 5 years ago, my wife and I just got married. She works as my assistant on the movies. She used to be in props, but now she just concentrates on me and makes sure I get there. But no, she was there, so we just got married. So it's about between 5 and 6 years ago.
Okay, all right, because I have to go and find that for myself and check it out. It sounds great. You had a good
Yeah.
time shooting it?
Oh yeah, it was good. Well, it actually what it was, the way I got in it was a friend of mine was supposed to be playing Noah,
Mhm.
and he got sick and had to go into the hospital.
Oh,
So he recommended me. Either he recommended me or they asked for me. Or I don't know how it happened, but they called me in. I had about 3 days to study it and prepare, and I was working on a television show too.
right.
So I said, okay, I'll do it, but I've only got 2 days to do it in. So we got to do it on the weekend. We got to do it Saturday and Sunday. And it's quite a bit of material. So we're going to have to do it, have a couple of long days. So I worked 16 hours one day and 14 hours the next. And then I flew back and went on my TV show then.
Okay. Which
So
TV show?
I only worked 2 days on it, but it was 2 long days.
Yeah, that's like long enough, and well, for all the content they had to get too. So what TV show were you working on at the time that you had to get back to?
I was working on The Ranch.
The Ranch. Okay, cool.
That's a Netflix television show.
All right.
And
Very
the
cool.
Netflix, so you cuss a lot,
Oh, well, yeah,
They
Westerns.
use bad language on those things. Sam Elliott and I were doing it, and I said, Sam, they were going to lose a bunch of fans doing this. He said, I know.
Not necessarily. I guess everybody's used to it now since Deadwood. Anything like
Yeah, I guess people are. I don't know.
yeah. Well, hopefully you don't lose fans because that's no reason to. You're just playing a part.
Well, no, I suppose not. But I always tried to avoid that kind of stuff when my mama was alive. But now I don't. My grandkids are all grown, and my great grandkids are too young to care. So
Right.
it
Well,
doesn't matter.
very good. I wanted to talk to you a little bit about, well, first of all, you have a list of credits. You've been working for years and years and years, and you have a credits list longer than my arm. And but I noticed going through it that you were also in a Twilight Zone episode back in 1986, and it was called Dead Run. And I was wondering if you could tell us a bit about that.
Well, Steve Rails back, and I did work. Steve was, I guess Steve's about 5 or 6 years younger than I am, but he looks a whole lot younger. And so they had him being a young guy who I'd worked with his father, supposedly. I'm a trucker, and I can't find work because I've had some wrecks and things. And so I've had to take a job as a trucker who's driving souls to hell. And I've got them all in the cattle truck, and they're all moaning and groaning and crying and stuff back in the back. And I'm trying to talk Steve into not taking this job. He wants to be my apprentice and go with me.
Uh-huh.
And then he keeps trying to save all these people who are going to hell. He keeps trying to let them escape, And I say, don't do that. Don't. We're going to get in trouble. You're going to. And then we get to hell, which is an old abandoned factory out in the valley somewhere. It's got asbestos stuff hanging down. I said, we're probably it's probably going to kill us in 10 or 15 years.
Mm.
Steve said, oh, yeah, I'm kind of worried about that myself. Well, we're both alive, so I guess it is all right. But we were in, and devils were in there. These people with horns and stuff, and they talked like that. And Sue brought the kids out there to see those devils, and that is pretty interesting.
Oh, yeah, that sounds like a very cool episode, but also possibly a little bit of a hint towards the theme of, the moral, I suppose, of vegetarianism, veganism. I feel like that was
I mean,
probably.
I don't know what it was, but it, I don't know what the symbolism was. I don't get into that.
It does seem to me like there's somebody was possibly trying to promote a little veganism there. Just like with the cattle and hell is a factory thing. That
Yeah,
just, yeah,
yeah,
like
yeah,
slaughterhouse.
it was pretty rough. I think those devils probably ate those souls when they got there.
Oh yeah, that's their job.
But they turned some of them loose. Some of them we turned loose on the roads,
Oh, okay. They
and the
run away.
devils knew it, so we were in trouble.
Oh,
I
oh,
think he got away, but it was touch and go there for a little bit.
wow, yeah. Well, now, and was that seriously asbestos that was hanging in the set? Like,
I think so. It's a pretty toxic looking place.
yeah. Well, obviously you're fine. So, as you said, that is good.
So far, so good. We're doing all right.
Cool. He mentioned that you brought the kids to see all the devils and weird critters and stuff like that, creatures, I should say, in when he was in the Twilight Zone episode Dead Run. I didn't know if you had any particular input for that or not, or
They had a great cast party.
oh yeah,
Oh yeah, in those days they did wrap parties and stuff, but all the sets were there, and you got to see all of the other things, and it was so much fun.
was it in that by any chance that creepy, toxic looking factory or slaughterhouse or whatever it was? Did they have the like anywhere near the set, or was it just a separate cast party with the props?
No, it was all the sets were there. I don't particularly remember that one. We were on a sound stage.
Okay.
And the rap party was on the sound stage, so you got to look around and see all of the different ones.
Oh, cool. Now I wanted to chat with you a little bit about some more recent things, although you did mention a more recent production. We'll just talk about Ghoul really briefly because yeah, you were just in that very briefly, but it was a TV movie shot in 2012 or released in 2012, I believe.
Yeah, it was. We shot it, I think, in I think the year before. I think,
Hmm.
and I don't even know what the story was of it. It was somebody was hiding in a cave, I think,
Okay.
and I played the kid's grandfather, and I'm planting a garden, and I'm giving him advice, and then he goes away, and I have a heart attack while he's gone. So the next time you see me, I'm laying in a coffin.
Ah.
And I told them if they tried to shut that lid, I was going to tear the lining out of it.
And they didn't.
They didn't shut the lid.
No. That would have been cruel, I think.
Yeah.
Traumatizing.
Yeah, well, I was traumatized just being in there.
Yeah. Yeah, that must be weird for actors that do have to play
It wasn't
parts.
very pleasant to be in there and have to not breathe, for
Yeah,
when
hold your
it goes
breath.
like that.
Yeah. Nah, creepy.
Yeah,